Welcome back to the Band Guide. I'm your band guy, Colin, and today I want to do a full walkthrough and blind review of Waves BB Tubes. This is a brand new plugin from Waves, and last week I did a review of their free Lil Tube that comes with this. They put it out free on Black Friday. I grabbed it then, and a lot of people have asked me since then if I could look at BB Tubes, because the only way to get Lil Tube now is with BB Tubes. So I thought, well, let's at least check it out and see if we like it. Maybe I'll pick it up myself. So what I want to do in this video is give you my honest first reaction to it. I have not heard this plugin at all. I have read through the manual because I think it's important you read through the manual, so I understand everything that's going on in it. It's also similar to some other plugins I've used over the years. So we'll walk through it really quickly and we'll listen to it on some samples, and I'll see where I might use BB Tubes that I don't think Lil Tube would be the right fit for me. I actually really like Lil Tube. I was surprised by that. I thought it would just be okay, but I'm probably going to use that in all my mixes here moving forward. And my bet is this plugin is going to be good as well, but I haven't heard it yet, so let's see what we think together. So let's jump in and let's start by just looking at what all we have going on this interface here. So in its core, it's two different saturations in one unit. So you have Beauty, which is going to be a more subtle, kind of warmer saturation, and you have Beast, which is going to be a more aggressive saturation. I haven't heard these. This is just how they're described, and it makes intuitive sense, right? And then along the left side here, we have a few options that can kind of scale this up and affect the sound a little bit. So sensitivity is going to naturally give it a little less volume leading into the saturation, so it will distort a little bit less. Saturation is just really mild distortion, by the way, but it really warms up. It kind of emulates analog, in this case, tube circuitry that can add a liveliness to your tracks. That's really, really cool. Give it a little less of that sterile digital sound. So sensitivity is going to send less into the saturation or send more into the saturation. So if you want a really overdriven signal, you can dial up the sensitivity here, or if you want less, you can dial it back. And then we have bass relief. This is just going to send less of the bass information, giving you a cleaner bass signal, but less of the tube saturation on that bass signal. And this is set at 340 hertz. And as you dial it up, it basically is less and less bass being sent into the tube saturation. You'll still get bass in your source, so this isn't a filter that's cutting out of the source, just basically cutting it out of what's going into the saturation. And then we have a transformer down here. When this is off, there's just a little less harmonic distortion. And then when this is on, there's a little bit more. So we'll keep it on this way it defaults. And then you have Beauty, Beast. On the right side here, we have tone. So we have pre and post. This is just a high shelf at 10,000 hertz. So like an EQ move. Pre would be driving more of those frequencies into the saturation. Post would be after the saturation. So you could drive more in and then tailor it down, or you could drive less into it so it distorts less on those frequencies, but then bring it back up so you're not losing them in the source. So if you don't want distortion on those frequencies, if you want those to be super clean, you could do it that way, or you could drive them harder so they get really distorted and then bring it back down in post. Pretty cool option. And then we have dry wet mix over here. So dry is going to be no saturation, and off to the right is going to be wet, and that's going to be all the saturation sounds. So that's cool because you can blend it in on one channel. And then you'll notice here there's also a type A and type B switch. This is just for the Beast knob here. There's two different types of saturation just for the Beast. So you technically get three types of saturation in this plugin, two that you can dial in at once, Beauty and Beast has two different tones. So let's just flip it back and forth and see what you like better. And then we have an output volume just to make sure you're not adding or taking away any volume with your saturation. So I have not heard this yet. First thing I want to try it on is just the master track in general. It was the last thing that I did in the Lil Tube video, and my initial thoughts there were that I couldn't really just throw it on after doing a full mix because it was making a little bit tubby. It just was like a little wonky in the low mid range. But I want to see if we could dial in BB Tubes here, because I think with this extra bass relief and the mix knob, I think I could probably get it to be adding some warmth without that tubbiness. So let's just listen to a little bit of it here. This is nothing dialed in, but it will obviously be adding some tube saturation right off the bat. So this is starting with off, and then I'll flip it on.
Lost my last job, can't lose this one. All day long I get no work done. All day long I get, what have I done? Prove my work with a nice apartment. Maybe there I'll find a partner. Prove my work with a nice apartment. Maybe there. What? Every day the universe expands, but I'm still standing here, dressed in my face.
Okay, so my initial impressions are similar to what I thought, but I like it. There's something just lively about the sound of this plugin. It's my first impression. It gives it a bit of a warmth and a liveliness that isn't there without it on, even though this mix is more or less fully mixed. So I still do think it could use a little bit less of that low mid-range area, so I want to see if I can use this bass relief to reduce that just a little bit. Let's see if we can get it shaped a little bit better, and then let's play around with the Beauty and the Beast knobs. So let's just go back to that verse here.
Lost my last job, can't lose this one all day long. I get no work done all day long. I get what have I done?
That feels a little bit better to me.
My work with a nice apartment, maybe then I'll find a partner.
So this is Beauty.
My work with a nice apartment, maybe then. What? Every day the universe expands, but I'm still standing here, dressed in my face.
Okay, Beauty is already really nice, right? So at its most extreme setting, this is what it's sounding like.
Every day we keep racing through space, but I'm so stuck in this.
Which is a little overdone, right? But when you just mix it up subtly,
So stuck in place.
it's a little bit warmer, it's a little bit fuller. We're definitely getting a little bit more volume out of it, so you'll need to balance with the output knob over here. But overall, I'm liking that initial sound. Now let's try Beast. I'll turn this all the way down. I think I'm gonna dial this back in a minute, but let's play with Beast over here.
I'm still standing here, dressed in my face.
Okay.
Every day we keep racing through space, but I'm so stuck in place. So stuck in place.
Okay, very different sound. Let's flip between the Type A and Type B over here.
Nice apartment, maybe there. What? Every day the universe expands, but I'm still standing here.
So Type A seems to be slightly brighter to me. Type B's a little bit warmer. So listen for that one time real quick.
Every day the universe expands, but I'm still standing here, dressed in my face.
So I think I'm liking Type A little bit better. I actually think I might be able to dial both of these in. I want to try one thing really quick where I exaggerate the pre into it and then I turn down the pre and the post. So essentially driving more high end here over in the tone. So this would be 10K and above, like on an EQ going into this.
Every day the universe expands, but I'm still standing here, dressed in my face. Every day we keep racing through space, but I'm so stuck in place. So stuck in place. Every day the universe expands, but I'm still standing here,
Okay.
dressed in my face.
This is cool. Okay. I really like what that did to the top end of this mix. It gives it a little bit of, it's just a little bit of subtle distortion up there, but it just works. It lightens up the top of the mix in a way that just EQ can't. And by driving it into the saturation a little bit harder, but then scaling it back in post, we're able to keep it smooth in the top end, but just get a little bit more, grit on the top end of this mix. So listen to this now. I think I have this roughly where I would set it in my mix. And listen to this now off, and then as soon as I engage it, notice how it just kind of cleans up the mix, even though it's not about really the EQ, but it's just the way it's distorting across the mix that's really helping it out. Now, fundamentally, in my opinion, if you don't have your EQ, your compression, your volume set right, it doesn't matter what you're driving through this. It's not going to sound as good as if you get all the fundamental pieces right. So don't worry about this if you don't understand like basic mixing yet. But if you have a good mix and you're trying to just level it up a little bit, I'm getting the sense that this can be a pretty powerful tool for that. So let's try this out here one more time. So this is off, and then I'll turn it on.
Every day the universe expands, but I'm still standing here, dressed in my face. Every day we keep racing through space, but I'm so stuck in place. So stuck in place.
Okay, and I should mention the last thing, this little meter here, what this is really showing you is how much distortion is being applied total across both tube circuits. So that's the last little piece there. Okay, I like it on the master track. I did not get Lil Tube to where I like it on the master track, so if I were to do anything on the master track, I'd probably do it with BB tubes. But you can see that there's a lot more options here, so if you're confused by this, maybe don't worry about it, or maybe mix through BB or Lil Tube, but earlier on in the mixing stage. Okay, let's look at this in another place here. I want to try this on the bass. So with the bass, with the Lil Tube video, we dialed in 2 bass tracks, and this track is the clean, like low end bass tone, and then we use Lil Tube to do a grit track on top of that. But because BB Tubes has a mix knob, we could actually blend in a distorted signal on one track. So I'm actually going to keep Lil Tube on here on this bass track because it's giving me a nice low end impact and I don't need to mess with that. But I want to see if instead of doing this second parallel track that we're mixing in here, instead of having the second track, I just on this track want to dial in a mix knob of BB Tubes. So let's open up BB Tubes really quick. So by using this mix knob here, I can dial in crazy distortion, but then mix it in from none to as much as I want. So let's just get that crazy distorted sound first. And I can also use the bass relief to cut out the low end so I'm not distorting the low end and blending that in and maybe causing some phase issues in the low end. Okay, so I'm going to go and turn bass release up to 100. We're going to drive Beast, and it looks like I need to drive the sensitivity up here to get enough. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. There we go. Okay, but doing both is cool. Let's try flipping the transformer off. I like it better with the transformer on. Very subtle difference, though. Let's drive that up a little bit. That's a crazy sound. That's a crazy sound, but we're gonna mix this in now with the unprocessed signal. So this is a 0% mix, so totally dry, and I can now just mix that super distorted signal in. Let's scale it back just 5% here. Cool, okay. So very, very similar to what we had here with Lil Tube and the main bass track. Let me turn off BB Tubes. This is Lil Tube. And then here what I've done now instead is just use BB Tubes and done a mix knob. So with one plugin on, or one track, we're now getting a blend of a super distorted signal and our clean signal. And I think that works really well. Okay, so there's one more thing that I want to try this on, and that's on vocals. I know vocals are a big thing for a lot of people, so let's see what this sounds like on vocals. Because we had that blend knob, we can tailor it in. So really quickly, before we use BB Tube, this is what Lil Tube sounds like on the vocals.
My last job, can't lose this one all day long. I get no work.
Just adding a little bit of hair, right? A little bit of grit. So I want to do something similar, but I want to see if you know, the mix knob gives us some options that we like here.
I get, what have I done?
So that's the beauty side. I like the beauty side.
It's my last job, can't lose this one all
Let's
day
listen to
long.
Beast.
I get no work done all day long. I get, what have I done?
Let's listen to the context.
Prove my worth with a nice apartment. Maybe then I'll find a partner. Prove my worth with a nice apartment. Maybe then.
Okay, let's listen through that one more time.
Prove my worth with a nice apartment. Maybe then I'll find a
volume.
partner. Prove my worth.
So this is
with a nice
no signal
apartment.
here.
Maybe then.
No saturation. And then
What?
I'll blend it in here.
Every day the universe expands.
Just a little more grit, a little
But
more
I'm
hair.
still standing there, dressed in my face.
But because this mix knob, I can tailor it in a little
every
bit.
day we keep racing.
Where the actual saturation is consistent and pretty gritty all the time, but I can blend it in to work with that lead vocal.
Every day the universe expands, but I'm still standing there, dressed in my
Okay, I don't necessarily know that I like it better than Lil Tube. I'm sure it's the same tube circuitry. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. But what I think it gives us is just a little bit more flexibility. That said, I like the sound of Lil Tube here. So what I want to do here is finish this video with playing both for you. And let me know down in the comments which you prefer on this vocal between Lil Tube and BB Tubes here. So first, let's do Lil Tube.
Every day the universe expands, but I'm still standing here, dressed in my face. Every day we keep racing through space, but I'm so stuck in this, so stuck in place. Every day the universe expands, but I'm still standing here, dressed in my face. Every day we keep racing through space, but I'm so stuck in this, so stuck in place.
So that is Waves BB Tubes. I really like this plugin. I hadn't heard it before this video, but I think it has a lot of flexibility, a lot of control that I'll be able to easily dial in saturation in a mix, which is just a really cool way to add a little bit more liveliness, a little bit more bite, a little bit more warmth into what you're doing. So definitely let me know down in the comments below what you think of this plugin, if you like Lil Tube or BB Tubes better on that lead vocal. Before you go, I want to give you something. This plugin is all about dialing in a little bit of more warmth and bite and grit, but ultimately, none of this matters if you don't get your tones right in your song, if you don't have a good mix to start with. And one of the biggest parts of getting your tones right in your song is EQ. And if you don't really understand EQ, I want to give you something to help with that. I've put together an EQ cheat sheet that walks through really everything you need to know with EQ. It's completely free from the link in the description below, so just grab it. It's really going to help you out. If this video was helpful, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next week with another video.
One thing at a time, I can